Welcome back, everybody, to Glowing Card Gaming. Like I said in the previous video, I'm gonna record these all, but I'm gonna post them. I'm gonna stagger the posts. As always, just trying new things out. Just trying, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what you guys like, what you don't like. You can always comment. Let me know. Um, but I wanted to again kind of recap, why I haven't been posting in the last few weeks, and I'm kind of trying to make up for that with some videos now. But I did. I've been writing for a while now, but my current novel I've been working on for just about a year and a half almost. But I went to writers conference, and long story short, they asked me for the entire manuscript, so that's a good sign there. So I kind of was, touching that up and dusting that off to get that ready to send in and have them look at that to try and get some representation to get published as an author. One thing I'll mention here, just for those who are curious, I do write sci-fi and fantasy. Sci-fi and fantasy, in case that dropped off. I realized I'd kind of tailed off there. The novel of the book is called The Infinite Corridor. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. Because if this particular agent or agency doesn't want it, I'll probably go ahead and try and submit it to a few more agencies, and I might write a little bit more onto that or in it, kind of just flush it out a little bit more. Who knows? Who knows how it'll go? But cross the fingers. We'll hear in actually probably 6.5 to 10.5 weeks. We'll get an answer somewhere in there. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully they sign me and I'll be a published author. No guarantees, because even once you get an agent representation, no guarantee a publisher's really going to want it. Not for traditional publishing. So I may end up self-publishing anyway. Who knows? But leave that as it is. We'll see how everything shakes out or flushes out. I also met some people, and they wanted me to do a blog post for the Pikes Peak Writers Conference, or the Pikes Peak Writers. So I went ahead and did that. Hopefully they'll take that. If not a big deal there. I wasn't particularly looking to be a long-term writer for that. I guess there's a little miscommunication there. If they want just my experience for this conference, more than happy to write the article for that. It's approximately 4.5 to 5 pages. Not a heck of a lot there. So, I just been doing a lot of writing in the past 2.5 weeks. Getting stuff ready and publishing and all that. So that's why I've been away. So I'm just trying to get a few videos up and really let everybody know what's going on. So I know that's kind of unrelated to sports and what I'm going to talk about tonight. We're going to just go ahead and hop into now. I wanted to talk about the Rockies, and now the Rockies are 50 games, 49. They got one more to go to 50. So about a third of the way through the season, not quite a third. Still about 10 games from that. But it seems they've settled into this area about 7 games below 500. Currently 21 and 28, last in the division. Not unsurprisingly. I thought the new rules would favor the Rockies a bit more, being that generally it's a hitter's club. But watching those games, those players it's almost like they just don't have any hope. I mean, the differential for them is 43 runs. I mean, there's really, I think there are only 3 or 4 teams in the league that are worse than the Rockies. Um, the first one of those is the Oakland Athletics, and everybody knows they stink. They are one of the worst teams that have been fielded in the majors. This may be the worst team that's ever been fielded in the majors ever. And they've already said they're going to move to Las Vegas. It's happening. So the fans are angry, and nobody wants to go to the games, and they just have attendance problems. It's a horrible stadium. You know, the owner there is probably worse than the Rockies owners. To be blunt about it, he's probably the worst owner in the league, flat out. It's not going to be any better in Vegas. It's just not. Um, well, so I just want to kind of leave it at that. The other teams that are technically worse in the league right now, Washington Nationals 8 games under, Cincinnati 8 games under. Rockies are currently 7 under, but that'll change. I think by the end of the year they're going to probably settle in about 12 games under. By the end of the year, I think that's about where they're going to finish. Oakland, I mentioned before. Oh yeah, and the two teams that are consistently worse, two other teams that are consistently worse this season than the Rockies, the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. Absolute horrendous. For anybody who cares, the Oakland Athletics are a winning percentage of 20% win. They are 10-40. 10-40. And they barely got that 10th win. And I think they've lost, I want to say, since they got the 10th win, they've lost 8 games since then. It's so bad. I mean, their differential, only 50 games in the season, mind you. Their differential is 178. I've never seen anything that bad. Never. Never. They are on pace to be a differential of about 600 by the end of the season. Like, opposing teams are going to score 600 more runs than they put up. That is phenomenally bad. You're watching history, but the wrong kind of history for Oakland. And unlike the Raiders, I actually don't mind. I don't care about the A's at all. I thought they were okay. From time to time, I've liked them. But really, yeah, they are extremely bad. So let's get back to the Rockies here. The Rockies are it's tough to go into this yet again. I hate to keep harping on this, but year in and year out, for the entire time the Rockies have been a team, they at times the teams have been good. And I talked about the 2007 season, which, I mean, that's over 16 years ago, 17 years ago, 16 years ago. Come to think of it, that's when they made that World Series run, and they had to really get some luck and they had to be the best team ever in the last 22 games in that season. It wasn't due to anything the ownership or the leadership did. Nothing. Zero. And really, the Rockies ownership should be learning lessons from the Denver Nuggets ownership. Because, the Nuggets constantly have made the playoffs. They haven't been good enough to win a championship, but at least they've made the playoffs more often than not. They've won their division, you know, and now they've won the Western Conference. It's not something, I wonder if the Rockies will ever do again. I think that might have been the best season the Rockies can produce with the current ownership. And the argument that, well, nobody wants to come into the altitude and pitch. Well, are you a major league pitcher or are you not? Can you play in the majors or can you not? I mean, both teams have to play in the altitude. Either you're better as a pitcher than the opposing pitcher, or you're not. And the altitude has zero to do with that. Can you strike out and make more ground ball outs than the opposing pitcher? And we've seen great pitchers come in here and do phenomenally well. John Gray struck out 17 batters and pitched a complete game at Coors Field. How do I know? I was there for that game. Don't tell me pitchers can't come here and pitch. That argument is just garbage. It's a bunch of wet, toxic waste dumped on a dumpster fire. I mean, there's no legitimacy to that argument at all. It holds no water. Don't talk to me about that. Are you a pitcher or are you not? You major league pitcher or are you not? Because I know that the Rockies could bring in bats. They've had no problem getting hitters to come here. So if you can get a pretty good lineup of batters and fielders, like, you can get a few all stars at the positions. Maybe one in the outfield. Have an Arenado at third, Larry Walker first. Trevor Story at short, and then you have Charlie Blackmon in the outfield. Eric Young. You get players like that in. You can win games with bats alone. Now you're not going to win the division with just that, but if you get some pitching in here, that's good. I'm not going to say, top tier pitching. You don't necessarily need that, but if you have a team that can bat and field pretty well and better than the other team's bats and get that good pitching so that most of the other times it'll balance out, especially on the road when the bats aren't quite doing as well, then that pitching comes in. Because guess what? You, as a major league pitcher with the Rockies, 82 of those games are going to be on the road, and most of those are going to be at sea level. A lot of them are going to be under 1,000 feet of sea level, within 1,000 feet of sea level. So, the argument is just atrocious. Oh, and I think that's something that the Rockies ownership has been pushing. Well, we can't get any pitchers here, but we have a bar in the outfield. When you're talking about the stadium, the amenities, the bar in the outfield, the craft brews that the owners seem to focus on and care about way more than the players, that's a problem. That's a problem for fans altogether. It's not good. I kind of made a video earlier about how the Broncos didn't make a lot of moves. They weren't making a lot of moves. And what we were talking about for the Broncos was the new stadium. That's the news from the Broncos, the new stadium. That's the news from the Rockies. The rooftop bar. Whoop-dee-doo. Whoop-dee-doo. Who cares? Who cares? No one cares. No true fans care. That's why, you go to the Rockies, you go to watch a Rockies game, it's like a home away game for the opposing team. I always see more opposing fans there than Rockies fans. Well, I won't say always. When we're getting ready to make the playoffs, the Rockies fans actually show up, and that's what should happen. When the team's not doing as well, you don't show up. You don't buy tickets to see that. You want a good product on the field, which year in and year out, the Rockies just don't have. Um, I'm not truly sure why the ownership that bought the Rockies bought them, other than to have, a nice little trophy around their beard. It's atrocious. They need to really, and again, I'm comparing them to the Nuggets right now, because the Nuggets for years and years, since 1976, since the '88 merger, have come in and they've never made a finals. This year they made a finals, and the difference between the Nuggets making the finals and the Rockies making the World Series in 2007 is this Nuggets team has been building and working towards that goal. They have a much better foundation to actually win an NBA Finals than the Rockies do at winning a World Series. The 2007 run, while great and phenomenal, and I loved every minute of it, they weren't built to do that. They lucked into doing that, or whatever you want to call it. It was a fluky-ish run. They've never had anything before since, and they didn't win the division that year either. They had a playing game for the wild card, and the ownership seems to think, "Oh, that's enough." Okay, I'm not going to the games. I like Blackman, I like Arenado, I like Story, but you trade them off every single time, and a lot of times not really for anybody, for anyone, for cash. I've seen many times where a trade is made for $20 million or $40 million cash. That's what you got for him. Okay. I think that teams that are trying to win and trying to make playoffs are spending, 40 million in increased salaries this year. The Rockies, I can't remember what it was, 200,000, 20,000, something like that. You can just tell they're not spending money on wins. They're, why should we go see something that you as the owners don't really care about? Why should I rent a house when you haven't mowed the lawn in 20 years? Why should I buy a house? You know, I again, I'm being hard on the Rockies, especially their ownership. First of all, they absolutely deserve that from the fans. And anytime, anytime that the ownership makes any sort of a statement right now, you really need to be critical of that statement. 100%. Until they prove with their actions that they're ready to start building and winning championships, there's no reason to take anything they say at face value or seriously. I mean, here we are, 30th season, 1993 to 2023. We're at season number 30. Everyone else in the entire league has at least won their division in that time. Everyone. Everyone has bypassed the wild card round except for the Rockies, who've never gone to the playoffs, not once, without backing into a wild card. And again, that's not on the coaches. That's not on the players. That's not on the scouts. And it isn't on some of the front office. but it's definitely on the owners. You don't have 30 years of mediocrity any other way. There's just no way to do it. It starts and ends with them. The buck stops there. Period. I'm tired of talking about it. Really am. This is 30 years of this crap. This is what your fans are like now. You know, at least when the Chicago Cubs were struggling in that drought, or the Cleveland Indians, or anybody, that have been through those those droughts, they are constantly building and trying to win championships, with maybe the exception of the A's. But they did Moneyball, so even they were trying to win, in kind of a cheap way. That owner's really cheap, but he was trying to win a World Series that way. He almost did it too. And if had his team that was running Moneyball had not gone out to the league and shared that little secret with everybody else, Athletics probably be a decent team to this day. Somehow backing into, just knowing the good players, the need to buy wins. Something that the Rockies can't even do. Can't even play Moneyball. Don't believe in it. Too much money. Forget it. Yep. Okay. I don't even know what else to say at this point. I know I'm like a broken record here, but it is what it is. That's the way it is. Let me see if I can say anything good about the Rockies. They won last night, and I am glad that we have the players that we do, especially Charlie Blackmon. I know he's probably going to get traded. Just the way the Rockies go, they're going to trade Blackmon. He's the only piece that they have that is worth anything, so they're going to trade him. So, maybe the Yankees will make a good deal, and they'll get Blackmon, and they'll win another ring in New York. We seem to be the AAA team for them. So, it is what it is. What else can I do or say? I can't change anything about it. All right. Again, I'm sick of this. I'm gonna leave this as it is, right there. Um, go Nuggets. Go Rockies. Really, I say this because I want the team to do well, and the team can do well. The players and the coaches can. You have to do what you can with what you got, because you're not playing for position on the Rockies. You're auditioning for other teams, and maybe you can win a World Series after you get traded to somewhere else. That's kind of the half good thing I can say. Is I'm grateful for the players and the coaches on the Rockies. Bud Black's great. I hope we never lose him, because I don't know what coach you would get that's better than him. Although I said that about Coach Carl for the Nuggets, and they've got somebody that's better, and is leading them onto a championship. Although I did see Coach Carl in the stands, so I'm really grateful and glad that he gets a chance to see his team succeed. So go Rockies, go Nuggets, and I really do hope the Rockies do make a run and can win the division and the playoffs. Although the Dodgers and Arizona are playing so well, it's not going to happen. It's not. It's just not. Even with a run at the end of the season, they aren't going to make the playoffs. So with all that being said, hope the Nuggets win a finals, and I hope the Rockies make the playoffs. Once again, thanks for watching my channel, Glowing Card Gaming, and as always, just be good to each other out there.